Right, today we are at Mr. Pritchard's home.
Pickard.
Pickard, trust me to get it wrong to start with. Mr. Pickard's home on Nursery Road, and his name's Archie. We must call him Archie. We're not going to call him anything else but, and that's it. Now then, Archie, tell me, how old are you?
Oh, I have to think, 89.
89 years old, and here we are now on the 8th of September in the year 2000. And where were you born, Archie?
I was born in Leeds.
You were born in Leeds. So what was Father's occupation at that time?
He was the headmaster at Dinnington School.
But at Leeds?
No.
What was he doing at Leeds?
What was I doing?
No, Father.
Oh, he was, when he was born in Leeds, he was.
He was born in Leeds?
Yes,
yeah.
and trained as a teacher in Leeds.
Yes.
And came to Barleycroft Lane to be headmaster of the school on Barleycroft Lane in 104. That was the time that they were sinking the pit at Dinnington, with the promise of another school as Dinnington developed. And what happened was they decided to put up the infant school first, and the other school came later. 1905, 1906, 1907. 1907 the biggest school was built, and he took that over.
So what took him from Leeds to here then? Was it a job?
Looking for a job.
Looking for a job. Of course, in those days.
And it was horse and cart. He came with a horse and cart furniture van, and it shed a hoop in South Anston, and he had to carry the furniture from the van to the house he got in Anston, and it had the wheel rehooped at South Anston with Mr. Stenton wheelwright.
So you actually came over with Father then?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You weren't born then?
No.
Oh, you weren't born. So you were born in...
Well, I was born in Leeds, because they took me to Leeds,
yeah.
well, took my mother to Leeds for the birth, because there was a doctor there that they knew very well, and they were very happy, and what was in this village life was hardly met up with what they could get in Leeds. So I was my mother was transported to Leeds just for the birth, and I came back immediately after.
So Father then, when he was teaching in Dinnington, he would have seen a great deal of poverty.
Oh yes, in the early days when the sinking of the pit, of course, when it was Tin Town down at near where the pit was, and the people came, they weren't the miners in the first place, they were the sinkers, the people who were really rough type of man who had to sort of, was prepared to nearly live on a cave dwelling.
Well, I know the death rate was very high as well there, because there was hardly any sanitation or anything. So your father then would have, he didn't come over here as a head then first off, did he? He came as a head, he was the first head.
Barleycroft Lane.
Right, and on Barleycroft Lane, which is now the...
what call it?
It's a club, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah. How many did he used to have in a classroom?
There was 80 in the school.
80 in the school? And how many classrooms would there be for that?
Two.
Classes?
Yeah, two at the outside.
So there was none of this grumbling about we want less than 30 in a class?
We got up to, at times in the bigger school, we got up to around the 60 mark in the class. Was
he what you would call a disciplinarian?
Was he? You don't know Mr. Pickard, obviously. The one thing that he was, a very, very strong disciplinarian. And he ran Dinnington like a clock. And today, not long since, I came around the corner of a building and said, "No need to ask who you are." "Goodness me," says, "I remember your daddy said he gave me the stick." That was the man who's passed on since.
We've not mentioned Mother. Was Mother a Leeds girl?
No, she was a Scottish lady from near Edinburgh in the lowlands of Scotland. She herself was a headmistress of a school when she married my father.
Oh, so it was in the genes then, really, wasn't it? You know, yeah. Yeah. So now then, mother was a Scotch lady, and she was also.
Lady, yeah.
Now, in those days, though, I think, Archie, was it so they were what was called uncertificated at that time?
No, she was fully certificated.
She was fully certificated.
As my father was, he went to Borough College down there in Middlesex to be trained as a teacher. Came out as a fully trained teacher. And, of course, as you say, in those days, probably, that was something unusual for a lot of them that were. There were a lot of uncertificate teachers about. And,
now, what kind of a man was he?
Absolutely forthright in every way possible. He was an independent, very independent person. And that came into the whole of his life. In
the home life and everything?
Everywhere.
Was he strict with you, Archie?
I've gone up those stairs.
That was serious?
2 at a time, yes, 2 at a time, for what today would be just looked upon as something that didn't matter at all. We were in this house, and the house stood by itself, and the nearest houses were right across there.
No development at all?
No. Mr. Raythorpe, Squire at Dinnington, owned the land up to the fence here. Miss Wright from Anston Hall owned the land on which this house was built. And it was just an open fields in all directions. They ploughed with the horse and plough right up to the garden fences. And on this side there was a wood put up which is now 40 feet high, and it was at that time 2 feet high.
You can remember that being planted?
Yeah, sure. Well, not planted.
No, but just
we were played in it, you see, when we dare.
Yeah.
Sneak in, sneak out. Because there was a great big notice of trespassers will be prosecuted. And they signed by for the Dinnington Hall, you see.
What was childhood like in those days, Archie, that you can bring back to memory? What was it like?
Well, of course, we made our own fun. Everything. There was nothing, you see.
Oh, radio, television?
Nothing, you see. Oh, radio came in 1920, was it, too? Into the corner of the house here, into the cupboard here. And we had radio London, 2LO calling, and it came on for an hour.
But it was thrilling, though, to listen to it.
Absolutely. Headphone, put it in the basins so more than one could hear. And that was the start of the loudspeakers.
So, what was this, the crystal set?
Yes, well, it was a valve set. And we used to carry the batteries to Dinnington Pit to have them charged, because there was no electricity around here. So we used to have the journey to there and back to charge the batteries for it. And the valves themselves lit up like an ordinary electric light bulb. So that was bright emitters, they call them.
And you went to the same school then, that Father...
I went to Anston School until we put a case ball through this window here in the middle.
Your front window, yeah.
There was a policeman coming. We saw a helmet way up the road there. And my brother and I, in our hurry, I think I was the one that pulled the ball over my head, and there was a terrific crash. It came through that middle window, and of course it was a size beyond anything we could get. And I know we had our banking account went down because we were saving for a bicycle, and that was my father's disciplinarian did. And that window came from Italy.
Did it really?
Yes, they had to go to Italy to get a window that size to replace it.
Would you say then that Father was a headmaster? How many was in the family? There was yourself?
Yeah, well, there was 4 of us.
There were 4 of us. Were you the youngest, oldest?
No, in between.
In between. Would you say then, looking back and looking out of the poverty that you can say, would you say that you was relatively in a privileged position?
Oh, absolutely.
Compared to
the friends I had, some of them. I mean, you go into the houses and they got newspapers on the table, and they couldn't have a tablecloth. And you see, between the strike, when the strike was on, the 1926 strike was on, it was absolutely shocking. They just had nothing. The food kitchens and whatnot here out in the store. Yes, we consider ourselves very, very fortunate.
Was Father a man you could get close to, or was he a little difficult to sort of...
It all depended on what you were, the topic you were on, whether it was something that you weren't trying to tell him too much. As long as you were asking, you got all the help you could possibly get.
What was his favourite subject?
I don't know, just people and that. He just enjoyed being amongst people. We never saw him, you know. We never saw him. My mother never saw him.
No.
This house here, this door here, was the open sesame to, anything that people wanted. And that was the way it was used. Knock, knock, and my mother would go to the door and she'd say, "Can we see Mr. Pickard?" She says, "If you see anybody going down the road there, ask them." Now that was his life, and he lived it right fully. I think before we went any further, I think I should give you something just there to have a...
Right, Mr. Pickard, so Father, he was the headmaster of the school, and obviously was very much he'd be looked up to, because it was a job of position, it was a job of responsibility, and obviously he must have had a lot of respect.
Well, he had tremendous respect. The disciplinarian side of him, he had on occasions to use the cane, which people have reminded me of, but his whole being was such that people respected him. He wasn't a person that was asking for anything for nothing. He was prepared to give in return for anything that he asked of a person.
I think we ought to bring in here, because your father obviously did an awful lot for the village of Dinnington.
Well, Dinnington, I can tell you myself that from my fact, and I think all of them would agree, that had he been missing, Dinnington would have been a different place.
Now, well, what kind of work did he do? What kind of jobs did he get his teeth into to wrestle with?
What, apart from school?
Yes.
Everything, it's in there.
Yes, I know, but I'd like you to tell me.
The library, there's a story of the library there.
Yeah.
The story of the library where he had it as within the school, you see, he started it.
Yes.
As a school library. And he got the children to bring any excess books they had at home. And he built up a library there, and it gradually became a bigger entity. And we used to go on a Friday night when he got the West Riding Council interested, and they put up some bookcases.
Yeah.
And it became on a Friday night for about an hour and a half, an open system for the people and the public to come in there and draw books and that. And that was how the library started.
So before then, there was nothing.
Well, of course, we're going back with that school in the library school. We're going back to, well, when 1908, 1910. That time when he was just getting the school turned around, one of the first things he was interested in, so I'm told, was a library for them. It was the intelligence of the child he wanted to advance all the time, and also the miner who was coming into the district. There were those that were seeking more education, and in that he developed an evening class, which he operated it, and on a Saturday I used to take his meals up sometimes, the miners right through for deputies coming up, and this side of it, and he spent his Saturdays there trying to help them as much as ever he could. It was all just help as much as ever he could.
Because a lot of the miners, and not sounding belittling them, but in those days a lot of them must have been illiterate.
Well, they were labourer type of person, you see. They were manual type.
Give them a shovel and that was it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And 13, they were ready for leaving school, you see. They could get away from school if they could take along to the headmaster proof, the parent, that they got a job for a child. He could leave at 13, you see. Well, at 13 you're not developed, are you? You're just coming on, aren't you?
Exactly.
And this was the time, and of course that was all there was, just dead-end jobs, really.
But I understand that he also got himself involved with local politics.
You're telling me.
Come on, let's have this one. How did he start with this?
Well, it all came out of the fact that he was so interested in people, and that they always urged him into joining them in the way he formed the Dinnington Labour Party in the first place. And
He was one of the anchors to the Labour Party.
In the first place. And he was later kicked out of the Labour Party. And they came along from London until they realised the mistake they'd made and asked him if he would go back in.
And did he go back in?
He was so outspoken, yes.
Yeah,
so outspoken.
But you knew where you stood with
That's
it.
right, absolutely. When whatever he said he meant, it wasn't any... There.
And I see here it says he was voluntary action, Kiverton Park Rural District.
Yeah.
So
He was on the Kiverton Park Rural District Council and voted in, of course. And I remember Mr. That name's gone. The top man at the pit who owned that time, top manager, Mr. Ellis. And he was in this room here, and he says, "You've had it, Mr. Pickard." He said, "I'm going to put up for the parish council." He said, "And instead of you being at the top, I shall be at the top." So my father just said to him, I remember it ever so, he was in here, and he said, "Shall we wait and see?" And when the results came out, Mr. Ellis was down, and despite the fact that the people were dependent on him for the living, and this is what he was playing on, that as soon as he put up for, they wouldn't dare but to put the...
Of course.
And my father was at the top.
I see for the parish council here that in 1923 he was the chairman for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't lose him.
No, it sounds as though he... And also here that I see that's been written here that he was the secretary of the war saving scheme in this area from 1916 to 23. That's the First Great War, and from 40 to 46.
Yeah. Second World War.
Now it sounds to me as though it was a very, very
That
much...
was the minister in Sheffield, the church we belonged to, the Congregational Church here in Anston. And he was the minister, that was what he gave out at the funeral service, pretty well.
Well, yes, this is a real eulogy. You can see he's really put it all down here about him. And he must have been
he was one of the top ministers in Sheffield.
a much respected man.
Absolutely.
Now, I see on this thing here that he got an MBE.
That's right. And,
was that for his political work?
Yes, for the work, well, all the general work and everything he did for Dinnington.
Archie, without him, Dinnington, obviously it would have progressed, but it would have been a lot slower then without him.
In so many ways, because he was far-seeing, and far-seeing with sense behind it. He didn't make statements that he couldn't substantiate. I mean, he'd thought it all out before he said anything, that it was possible. Now, so many people have put forward ideas that are impossible from the start, and they fall flat on their face. And that. Not he. He would never. If he got up and suggested something, you could guarantee that he thought it right through to the end, and that was that.
How many years did he do in teaching, Archie?
1940. He left Dinnington when he retired in 1940. and he went into it, well, it was when he came out of college, which would be, what, 20 years old.
Hmm.
We went to London with a group of lads from Dinnington, and he says, will you come with me to look after them, help me to look after them? I said, yes, I'll come with you. I went into London and with him, and we looked after these lads. And we were coming down the Strand. It was on a half-day return, 8 and 6pence it cost the ticket.
To London?
To London, return. And we were coming in the Strand, and the Strand was absolutely a jog with people coming out. It was 11 o'clock at night. We were going to King's Cross station to catch the train back home. And I never heard anything like it, actually, amidst all the noise and all the people, and that terrific shout. Mr. Pickard! Mr. Pickard! Nearly lamenting. There's somebody in distress. And we waited, and along came a gentleman from Anston that spotted him.
Spotted him?
Because he always wore a bowler hat. And it spotted him amongst all those people, teenage, you wouldn't believe it was possible. And Mr. Pickard! So, that's the man that you're talking about.
What age did he die, Archie?
80.
80.
Just 80.
You know, as a child, were you able to go on holidays?
Yes, he would do that. He was sensible in that he'd work himself out so to the bone, but he always demanded of himself, and for the benefit of us, a holiday, and we always had a holiday out of it all.
It sounds as though, this is not belittling him, but it sounds as though he must have not had a great deal of time at home because of all these interests.
Could he? No. At night school, as soon as he finished his day school, and he walked it backwards and forwards, they used to set the clocks with him. I could guarantee the time that he was going down, and if he was missing, goodness me, I remember when he had the flu once, and I had to go to the school and take him up with the car, and the people, they just couldn't believe that, it stopped, and it was only for a day or two, and that it stopped him, but people just wouldn't believe that it
So
stopped.
did you have one of the first telephones in the village?
No, we weren't telephone minded at that time. We were the first ones to have, we were one of the early ones with the car. We had a Model T Ford.
The Tin Lizzie?
Yeah, which I took up to John O'Groats in 1928 and back.
And
drove it up.
They were reliable, were they, Archie? Those?
There were no brakes on it. Not that were any good anyway. 23 horsepower, which today would be a 10 horsepower, 11, but it was £1 a horsepower, the tax. So that your road tax was £23 a year. And you had 2 gears on it. And the controls were under the steering wheel. You got your throttle, which is your foot one on the floor. It was underneath the wheel on one side. On the other side, there was advance and retard on the ignition, and you had, as it started to pink on hills, you adjusted that, which is all controlled now automatically. And it's 6-volt lighting, which was simply marvellous with electric lights. We were just one of the early ones that really stabbed up with electric lights on the cars. They were in oil lamps and that.
Of course. A settling thing.
I had a settling on my motorcycle.
Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
What about the hall? Did you have any dealings at all with the Aythorpes at all? Your father?
Only that we had to watch him. That they didn't see us if we happened to nip in there, nip out. But they had a tragedy there in the fact that the old Mr. Aythorpe, he died, and his brother took over. Well, it wasn't his brother actually. I think it was a member of the family anyway. He came here, I think it's from Hull somewhere, and took over the squire. He was the squire, you see. Mm. Now, in the old days, the squire, I don't know whether they told you when you were doing Lawton, that the women used to curtsy to Mr. Aythorpe when he went through the thing. The ladies. Yeah. I don't know whether any of the older members had ever said that.
No, that's interesting. That. Where did they get the money from, Archie? What was it?
Well, until they sold the rights for the mining, and that. Where did they get the money from in those days? I don't know where they originated, because they weren't producing. Well, there again, he owned the farms all round.
Of course, landowner, yeah.
And of course, they would be all paying in.
Getting rents.
Yeah, rents.
Yeah.
So Mr. Twyble, the original, Mr. Twible's still there, but his father, he used to come round here on a horseback round viewing the countryside. And November the 5th, we always see he allotted us a field to have a bonfire in it and that sort of thing. He was a very nice gentleman, Mr. And he died at I think he was only 46 or so.
What used to happen? What used to happen, Archie, if a person was destitute, or, I mean, let's face it, if father came off work and they've got 7 or 8 children in a family,
that's right.
What cushion was there for them?
The only thing. What
cushion was there for them regarding finance?
The relief officer, relieving officer, and he wasn't always a very pleasant man to approach. And although the family was a great friend of ours, he wasn't looked upon as a very great friend of many people. In fact, they were, because he had all sorts to deal with again. You see, he had those that were real genuine who never went to him, struggled and did everything to survive.
Yeah.
And the others who went up to him and put a good case and got something, and then that started embitting us all round, you see. But there was a workhouse at Dinnington, of course, next to the church, parish church there. And they could get there. We used to have on here, when this house was by itself, there was a chalk cross on the thing there. That was for the tramps coming through from one workhouse to the other. They'd walk from Worksop to here, you see.
Who ran it then, Archie? Can you remember?
No, I think it was a turner that had it. And as they walked through, they'd got a cross on our gate here that they get a cup of tea or a meal here if they came in.
They could get a, yeah.
And the cross, the white cross was on there.
Must have been terrible poverty.
Oh, terrible poverty.
Terrible
poverty.
I mean, I think when people today grumble and they grouse about the poor,
yes,
they don't really.
They don't understand what poverty is. It's terrible, really, absolutely. Well, I felt so sorry for my friends, you see, that were in that sort of line.
Were they rickets and that, and things like that, Archie?
Well, not a lot. Not as I remember. No, I don't think there was a lot.
Any diphtheria?
That was terrible. Diphtheria was terrible.
Was it a killer?
Yes.
Was it?
And
whooping cough?
Yes, and scarlet fever.
Was that a killer?
That was a killer, yes.
Was it?
But not on the same extent as diphtheria.
But how did people cope if, say, suddenly they wanted a doctor? No telephones. Suddenly,
How did you do it?
How did you do it?
How to get on a bike, or in somewhere or other get your legs going and run and walk.
Must have been.
The doctor came round here in a horse and trap, and in the early days, and I remember him coming to see me and measles here at this house, old Dr. Clark.
He was from
Southampton. Yeah, bearded gentleman.
Who was father's close friends? Had he got any what you would call close friends?
Not really. He had no time for such things as anything.
He kept his own counsel,
but everybody was his friend. It was, hello, Mr. Pickard, everybody. Now, we had a case. I was here at the front door. Here, it's a few years back now. But it was night time, and I was going to close the gate. Somebody had opened it and left it open, and there's a voice came from over there, attracted my attention. And, could he come? He said, could he come? I said, yeah, that's what you want. So he came. And he came to the front door there and stood there at the door, and it was opened. And he looked up the staircase and everything. I said, what's the matter? He says, hey, he says, this was home, he says to me. He says, home, I said. He says, yes. Oh, he says, I never thought I'd get this opportunity. And so he said, what opportunity? He said, to see this again. He said, oh, it's doing me the world of good. He said, when I were on Burma Road with the Japanese, he said, and things were absolutely shocking. He said, I used to think of home here. He said, and I said, no, what's all this about? And so he said, he'd come to my father for a recommend for a job he was going to, and he was out of work and he couldn't get a job anywhere. My father had got him this job. So,
you remember sticking on. What about church? Was father a church?
Congregational church, and which is an independent church, and it's unfortunately closed. But he was on Sunday. He took services.
Where was that? Where was it?
On Main Street in Anston, North Anston. And he'd take there. He was a member, of course, of the church itself, and he'd take the services if there was anyone whether if the pulpit was vacant. And he went round the churches in Dinnington, the Methodists and the Salvation Army, and and played pot with the Church of England because they wouldn't let him in. He was a chorister in Leeds.
Was he?
Yes, when he was a boy. They wouldn't let him in to preach in the Church of England. They were all snobs, you see. As he used, he used to go pot, and the father of the Catholic Church, he used to tell him right straight, because he wouldn't let him in, you see. He said, them's my lads in there, he said, and I have a right to go in and talk to them on a Sunday.
Now, he was involved with an awful lot of things.
Yes, yes.
But even at that, would you say that really he was a lonely man? Because he didn't take too many people to his heart. He kept his own counsel and he did what he had to do. Was he more of a...
I don't know. He never gave you that impression because he's such a great reader. If he had it'd be in here, this was a separate room to that. And he'd come in here and a book in front of me. So he was never lonely, never lonely. He was always searching for something, you know, he got a mind that always looking ahead.
So you had a fairly good childhood, Archie? It wasn't bad at all. Compared to the rest of them, I mean, you'd be almost a king.
Well, yes, that's the way we looked at it.
Now, when you left school then...
First ones, before I forget, we were the first ones to have a water toilet.
Were you?
This house was the first one to have a water toilet. There was odd ones in Anston and began to get them. And when I used to bring my friends, and they were all on these ash things where they
closets,
they used to mix them all up and that, and they'd come here and they'd use it and then pull flush and it went. They just couldn't believe it. It was absolutely amazing.
You know, you've lived through some wonderful times.
Oh, I said no one can ever live through a better period of change than we have, because we've moved from walking, horses, the traction. We've moved right through to the motor car. We've moved through from the wireless has come in. We've moved through from electricity coming in. We've moved through so many things that have come in that no one can ever get as many things happen in a lifetime as what's happened.
Is there anything that's happened since Father died that you think, I think you'd have liked to have seen that?
Oh, yes, there were, because he was always looking for things ahead, yes, I think so.
So in the army, in the wartime, obviously, he wouldn't go in the army because he got a reserved occupation.
Yes.
What was it like in Dinnington in those days, in the army, in the war?
Well, of course, the manpower, the majority of it was occupied with the mines, wasn't there?
Of course, of course.
So there were, of course, a lot of miners who went in, and some a lot volunteered to go in, and that the younger members found themselves there was no the jobs in the pit, and they were fetched in, of course, and they spent their time while the war lasted.
There'd be a lot of good lads wasted.
Oh, no,
a lot of good lads wasted.
Terrible.
Now you left school, Archie. Now, where did we first start work then?
Oh, I've always been interested in my own business actually. I got into my own business as soon as I could.
What did you do?
Electrical.
What, an electrical shop?
Wireless. No, I operated from here actually
Did you really?
for quite a long time, and then I moved to. We got married and we moved out and went to Harrogate.
Well, it's still in the same sort of business.
Well, it was a business that we got landed. The change that took place that we weren't expecting. Of course, the war broke out, and where the place we took the business was going to be one where it was developing. The whole area was developing and everything. And then after we'd bought it, I think the people who sold it knew a little bit more than we did, and everything stopped. And there's no development, no nothing, and we came to a standstill, you see, and what we'd expected to be expanding, just didn't materialise. So I went in the RAF there, and that was the RAF to the steel, and landed in the steel, and...
When you say steelworks, do you mean the actual manufacturing?
Yes, right in the midst of it. Tried to burn me to death.
By Jove. Was that in Sheffield?
Yes, perfect.
Can you remember those hammers that used to go...
Oh, yeah, down at...
At a cliff, they were all over the place. So boom, 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 boom. And they say when women put the washing out, it used to be covered in like a red ash, ochre, that used to cover everything over.
Quite near to where I worked, there was a big steam hammer, and a hydraulic hammer, and there's some cottages across there, and they changed the hammer, didn't they, to a hydraulic pressure.
Yeah.
And of course the thump went.
Mm.
And they went mad. They'd been there that many years with this thump. They couldn't sleep at night.
Now, for relaxation then, for you, Archie, when you finish work, did you like to drink? Because
Never touched alcohol in my life.
I would keep in a straight face, is it?
Yes, perfectly straight. And never smoked in my life.
It's something
been the laugh of the party in the RAF. You should have heard them. They laughed at me.
No cigarettes.
Because no, and they said, "What on earth do you live for?" You know, everything that.
Now, did you follow your father's footsteps in the party, the Labour Party?
No.
You didn't.
No, he tried hard to get me in. There's no way.
And he wasn't a member of the Buffs or the Masons, anything like that?
No. I went through life very simply and got through plenty of hard work, terrifically hard work, but
when you think about it, Archie, it's not a bad... he's not left a bad legacy behind.
Well, I've always, and I was in charge for a long time, in charge of a lot of men there, and that in itself is an education. It's wonderful, because you're getting men from all walks of life, and the way you could appeal to them and get out of a person that had no intention to work, you know, by appealing to them right, treating them as men, and not trying to treat them as a boss and men. It was amazing what you could get out.
Not to us and them, no.
You go and visit them if they were in Hoffill and meet the wives and that sort of thing. And
now tell me, I haven't asked you this, but very early days that you can remember in Dinnington, what kind of shops were prominent in Dinnington that you can remember? Is there any calls to mind?
I was always interested in bicycles, you see, so Harold Barlow's.
Well, Barlow's there then.
Harold Barlow, yes, Harold Barlow. His father, of course, and his mother.
Yeah.
Harold Barlow's father and mother, and of course he went down to Chichester finally.
His father?
No, Harold Barlow.
Harold, yeah.
Well, no, the father died, but the father was a butcher as well. As a butcher, and it is said, I wasn't there to see it, but as you go down, you don't know Anston, do you?
Yes.
Oh, well, continue this road down, straight down, not turn down the road, straight down onto the green.
Yeah.
And go down the green, down that little narrow, well, it's a concrete path, There was the Blacksmith Arms down there before they closed it and transferred the licence up to the...
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, well...
It's flats now, yeah.
Well, that... He used to get on a... There used to be a slaughterhouse there, a butcher's shop, and there was a slaughterhouse. And they used to slaughter, and they put a quarter of beef on his shoulders and ride up there, they said. I don't know whether you believe that or not.
Was the lyric there as a lad?
Yes, that was there. Mr. England, he was the gentleman that built that. He built the cinema, and then he built the... oh yeah, I remember Mr. England well.
What about White's, the shop? You know, White's used to be... Was it White's? Yes.
Which is this one?
Sorry?
Which one?
The old man used to have the White's Emporium thing down the main street. Yes, Billy White.
Yeah, now you mentioned the
Billy.
Billy.
Yeah.
Billy, I'd have been in, but it was the White that I didn't...
Is he... I think he was involved with politics a bit at one time, Billy White was.
I don't know whether he got... yeah, I suppose he was there, you see. I mean, really, when my father went, I didn't have the contacts much in Dinnington with the politics of the place.
Tell me, Archie, were they... Now, be truthful. Were they good old days, or were they bad old days?
Well, everything depends on how you look at them. The fact was that you enjoyed simpler things in life. You didn't want any of these wonderful extras, because life now isn't life. It's the extras. I mean, kids now, they've got a screen up in their bedroom. They live there, don't they? And they just simply... they've no interest in pretty well anything. Whereas there, you just simply lived out in the open.
And people don't talk like they used to do.
Oh no, it was
They're
nothing else.
dictated with that thing. Television, aren't they?
They do like caravan dwellers. They go and shut the door. You get a person got into a tent, and immediately he opens the flaps of his tent and talks to the next door. And it's exactly that. In the old days, the houses were in blocks of houses, and everybody talked. There was no need for anybody keeping... You kept an eye. If there was a curtain not drawn at a certain time, you wanted to know why it wouldn't come. And you just simply inquired.
So, really, if you had to run it all again, this lot, you don't think you'd do many things too different, would you?
Well, I would avoid a war. That was the thing. It's terrible when you think that through just no reason at all, hundreds and thousands of lives are just simply...
wasted.
Absolutely wasted for no purpose at all. Nothing. That's the thing that I think is so awful.
I agree. There were some young lives there just starting out.
Terrible.
And of course they all got caught up with this euphoria, your country needs you, and as young lads, of course, yeah, they were going to finish it in a fortnight, weren't they? Yeah, and look how they went. Through idiots, sending them over the top.
Yes, terrible.
And here we have Mr. Pickard, the great gentleman we've been talking about. What was his first name?
Archie.
Archie.
Archie Mann.
Archie Mann.
Yes.